without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
This is Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hi, everyone, and happy 2024. It's me, once again, your girl, Sonja Pearson. But tonight, this is my introduction to a brand new platform, Northeast Streaming Sports, where we have nightly football, sports, basketball, everything you can think of right here. And tonight, I have the very special privilege of introducing as my co-host tonight, the founder of Northeast Streaming Sports, none other than the Mac Man himself. Good evening, Mac. Happy New Year.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning, good evening. It's morning here somewhere. I don't know, but good evening to you. Happy New Year to you and everyone that'll be tuning in here tonight. Can't wait to get this going, Sonja.
Yeah, so tell us just a little bit about Northeast Streaming Sports so we'll know how all of my followers can get on board and get all of the news round the clock on your platform here.
That sounds great. So Northeast Streaming Sports is a mainly a Roku channel where we now have updated our format so that we're more and more like a sports network. We got shows all morning long. We got shows at night, including this one here was part of the new format change. We got Sonja doing her thing at night. We got the Philly sports guy, Jamie Aggs, doing our afternoon show. And me and my long-time co-host, Jack, started off in the morning. So we got almost all day sports now where all the people get out there and get their sports right from us.
That is awesome. And congratulations on that. And it being a new year, this is the perfect time for you two to follow Northeast Streaming Sports. You're definitely number one place for sports around the clock. So thank you so much, Mac, for that. Now let's go ahead and get into a little NFL talk here. Everyone knows I'm a football girl, but I'm going to be delving over into some other topics a little bit later on. But tonight, I just want to talk here and have a little conversation. These NFL playoffs. It's playoff time. We have 1 week left in the regular season, and the Chiefs won. I'm just wondering, have they come back into their own, or was this just luck that they were able to eke right on past the stumbling Cincinnati team?
Well, it goes to show you still can win in the NFL with good defense and a good field goal kicker, right? That's old school NFL. That's New York Giants, Chicago Bears, Baltimore Ravens football. And you still can do that today. Kansas City is a total different team than it was the past years, right, Sonja? I mean, before they had a high-flying offense, a pretty good defense. Now it's kind of switched the other way around. They've won their 8th straight title. Something to be said about that, right? So they've won their 8th straight title. I think they're in the 3rd seed right now. I don't think they can get kicked out of 3rd seed. So they might have one home field game. And in the playoffs, it's great. It's like March Madness, right? You lose and you're gone. You win and you go on. Anything can happen in the playoffs. And I don't care how good Baltimore is during the regular season, they have to win one game, or if they lose, they're gone. So Kansas City has just as good a shot as any other team right now, Sonja. It's a fumble. It's a drop pass. Bill Parcells, my favorite head coach of all time, always said, 5 plays determine a game. If you get those 5 plays, you win. If you don't get them, you normally lose. So we'll see. I haven't lost faith in Kansas City yet, but man, they got some competition out there this year.
And Kansas actually has been kind of an up and down throughout this season. Drop passes, Patrick Mahomes at times looking very frustrated. Some people have blamed the Kelsey Swift effect, if you believe in that sort of superstition. But it's a lot of football left to be played, even though we are in the twilight of the regular season. Now, I know you mentioned the Ravens, and I wanted to talk about that. The Ravens have secured the number 1 seed. Lamar Jackson, bartered his own contract. There were teams out there that, the Ravens said, hey, go ahead and see what's out there. Everyone was no thanks. And now look at Lamar.
Yeah. I mean, he's improved so much as a passer. And what Lamar never did until this year, and until maybe halfway through this year, really, is start to depend on the other players, even with his tight end going down, right? All of a sudden, I throw the ball to any receiver out there. He's going to make the play instead of me trying to force things. So Lamar has become more dependent on his team. They got the number one defense in all categories, I think in the NFL, if not the AFC anyway, Sonja. So if he can continue to do that, he hasn't done well in the playoffs, so he's got a track record. But if he continues to depend on a team and not try to force things, not put everything on his shoulders, Baltimore should make a nice run. They should be the favorite. I think they are to get to the Super Bowl, them and San Fran. But again, he has a record in the playoffs that shows that he can't get it together. He presses. He tries too hard. Let's see if he's grown up a little bit more. Let's see if he can depend on his team and let his team win the game, and he just helps them win.
Exactly. And a name like Lamar Jackson, you would think whatever element he's put in, that he could actually make it better. But you definitely mentioned him having those important weapons that are around him that definitely are solidifying the Baltimore that we see today. Now, everything else is still up for grabs. It's going to depend on week 18. We still have to figure out what's going to happen with the seeds 2, 3, 4, and in both of those conferences. Let's start with the AFC. Where do you think the Dolphins are going to be?
The Dolphins, they've been injured. They have an explosive offense. To me, if they can beat Buffalo, I think they kind of maybe bounce back. I don't know, Sonja. I don't think they're as strong as I thought. I picked them to go to the championship game. Again, I'm not saying they won't. I don't know if they're strong enough. Their defense looks good at times and then doesn't look so good. The receivers are all timing patterns. If you can knock Tua off his steps, if you can knock him off his steps and knock off his timing, they seem to have problems. So depending on who they play, Buffalo has played very well on defense. They know that. They're going to go after him. They're going to send a lot of blitzes. They're going to try and knock him off his steps. They're going to try and get some turnovers or at least some incompletions. And Buffalo found a running game. And that in the playoffs is probably one of the most important things you can have, a good defense and a good running game. Buffalo's in position to win the division or be out of the playoffs. I'm not sure what my position Miami's in right now, but I know Buffalo, this is a playoff game for them. I expect them to go out there fired up and playing intense this week.
And Buffalo's come so close so many times. And, they have the DeMar Hamlin story. That's a real feel-good story. So they have a lot of people that are not necessarily Bills Mafia that are rooting for them. And I know you mentioned Miami. There's been a lot of slowing of Tyreek Hill, including him battling some injuries that he's played through this season. Do you think Miami has a viable chance? Are they still maybe the third position maybe for the AFC?
They definitely could. They might be able to knock San Francisco out of that position if they win. I'm not sure what happens when they lose. I know there's so many different scenarios and so many different tiebreakers. I just know that Miami, I don't think has as much pressure as Buffalo to win this game because I think they're still in the mix. But then you got the Colts, you got Houston, you got Pittsburgh, you got all these teams waiting for something to happen, and they got to win too. So, I mean, it's right now in the AFC as far as the wild cards go is wide open. And again, the tiebreakers will come into into what happens there. Miami should just go out and just win the game if they can. And they're not going to rest anybody, that's for sure. They're going to go out there and play the best they can.
And not to mention, even Jacksonville has clinched the South with their win over the Panthers this past week. They clinched their division, so they're still kind of on the helm there to try to see. We've had every now and then a sneaky good team that comes in from the wild card, and they kind of progress a little bit.
Yeah, listen, Jags. I still think Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if he's playing this week or not, Sonja. I haven't seen the report. I know he had a problem last week. The Jags won without him. They got a good defense. They got a good running game. But But Houston is my sleeper, right? Houston's the one. I think CJ Stroud came back. They look like Houston again. They got a good defense, a good running game, and the Colts are playing well. I mean, I can't wait to see I think the Houston Colts game, I think, is going to be better than people think. I think Houston wins that. Yes,
and CJ has definitely been the game changer for them, even though he has been out with injuries himself. It's thought that the Texans have a 50% chance of advancing to the playoffs based on their most recent odds. And so that's pretty good at 50 with a rookie quarterback. The tiebreaker with the Colts, all of that. Very important information going into week 18.
Yeah, I agree.
And in fact, if by the virtue of their win over the Raiders and the Bengals lost to the Chiefs on Sunday, the Colts are making the AFC playoffs at least as a wild card team if they could beat Texans. But you're saying looks like it's the opposite way. Gardner Minshew looked very promising, maybe mid-season, despite the Colts having their own, issues from the past. He came in as a pretty solid quarterback, at least in my opinion. They're going to be playing on Saturday at 8:15. They're hosting the Texans in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, the Colts barely beat the Raiders. The Raiders looked like they were that team that was coming back. They had Antonio Pierce, holding up the rear for them with that whole coaching change down there. And the Raiders looked like they were going to make a run for it. And unfortunately, despite everything that they had going for them, they were actually eliminated.
Yeah. I give Antonio Pierce a lot of credit. He took over in a very bad position. I mean, the team was down. They didn't know who their quarterback was. He ends up sitting Garoppolo. He puts the young quarterback in. They got a good running back team there that plays really well. Of course, you got Devontae Adams there. I like the Raiders' attitude. They may not have won, but I think they took a step forward this year. And I think if Antonio Pierce stays with them, they can build off that. Now, there's talk of Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan. I don't know what's going to happen over on the West Coast there. If maybe he goes in, I don't know. But if I was the Raiders right now, I'd keep Antonio Pierce, give him a full year, see what he can do before I move on from him if I do. And I think he's got a special thing with those players over there right now. Michael Strahan even said he's a very smart man when it comes to football, and he knows how to motivate the coaches, knows how to motivate the players, change the character a little bit. The Raider fans love him. So I would give him a full year. I'd give him a full year, Sonja. I definitely would.
So you think they will offer him the coaching position?
I would think. They at least even if it's just for a year, see what you can do and see how it ends up by the end of the year. I'd give him a shot at it and see if the Raiders keep progressing.
Right. That's definitely an interesting storyline to follow. Just to know how that locker room has changed, just the morale, honestly, with Antonio Pierce. So we're definitely, rooting for him if that's what he wants and that's what the players want. We wish him the best for that. Can't go without talking about the Cowboys. Now, thanks to that late season collapse by the Eagles, can you believe the Eagles lost that game? Can you believe the Cardinals beat them?
I was
this close to picking the upset, and I was like,
I picked the Eagles. I was 28-13. I was counting my money. I was ready to buy a new hat. I was ready. But the Eagles have something going on in-house there. I talked to the Philly sports guy, Pags. I talk to him often. And there's something going on in the coaching staff with the players. There's more infighting. It has something to do with the head coach making fun of some things that he shouldn't. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's a lot of things happening there. And they don't have a lot of time to get this together. They got the Giants this week. Pag says, rest all your players. We're in the playoffs. I don't know if that's a good idea. They got to get ready for the playoffs. And if they go in on another loss, it starts getting in your mind. And once it's in your mind, it's hard to get out. I think the Eagles come out, they play the best they can. I think the Giants give them a really good game again because the Giants sure haven't given up. And I think that this is going to be a really good game, a big test for the Eagles. And if they lose again, I'm not sure if they can win the first round of playoffs. Sonja.
Yeah, they definitely don't look like the Eagles that we've seen championship caliber. It almost seems like something's off with Jalen. There was the 1 week he played with some flu-like symptoms, and I kind of gave it a pass, like, okay, he's not feeling well. But then there were so many close calls earlier in the season as well. And like you said, it has to be something internal. It's almost like an entirely different persona that we're used to seeing, like the facial expressions, everything, in my opinion, is just different. It's like it's a different vibe coming from that locker room.
Yeah, and I know you as a Panther fan, me as a Giant fan. I wish I had that offensive line. I mean, that offensive line is incredible, and they don't use that running game enough. I don't know what the thinking is there on the offense with the offensive coordinator, even the new defensive coordinator that came over from the Patriots, who supposedly was better than the older one. The defense still doesn't look the same. There is some problems in the coaching, I think, philosophy there, and maybe that's what's causing the turmoil.
Right, and this is to the much to the chagrin of them, and the Cowboys fans are eating it up because the Cowboys, oh my goodness, that narrowly win over the Lions. I think that's going to go down in the books as one that we will always talk about, the substitution that referee Allen missed or did not miss. It was just bad all around. Eckler, I think was his name. Taylor Eckler said number 68 that he substituted. It looked like it from the replay that he at least had a conversation, but there was another person that was blocking him actually probably getting direct communication to referee Allen. And the Cowboys, in my opinion, should not have won that game, not because I'm not a Cowboys fan, but just I felt like the Lions really won the game. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's certain aspects of this whole thing. First, I believe he reported, and I don't know if the ref thought it was him or the other guy or number 7. I think somebody reported. He thought somebody was reporting. I don't think he knew which one reported. And they're saying the NFL was kind of saying, well, the Lions tried to trick them with multiple players coming in reporting, but yet they're going to demote the referees for not doing it right. So that's kind of crazy to me. So the NFL, in its own way, is kind of admitting the referees messed up by demoting them. I don't know if we got to start fining the referees or suspending the referees or whatever. I don't know, but it can't continue this type of end of game mistakes, whether it's a penalty, whether it's a non-call or what. These have been deciding the games, and not just Detroit and Dallas. But you win is a win. Dallas won. They're in control of the NFC East. The Lions are in the playoffs. They won the North. So maybe they see each other again, and maybe they'll settle on the field for sure next time. I don't know. But there is so many different things going on there. I'm not sure what's going on. I think the NFL tries to confuse us on purpose, Sonja, so we don't know what's going on.
Exactly. And sometimes they say it's political, but not really political, but just NFL political. Yeah. And I totally believe that. And, I'm sure Saints fans can feel the fire from this one as well. When they had their whole petition circulating the internet about them missing the playoffs because of bad refereeing. Yeah. So they say. But Dallas, I don't know, for all intents and purposes, they may be able to creep up to the number 1 position at some point if the 49ers don't step up, because with the Eagles looking lackluster, I mean, what do you think about that? Like, is it possible Dallas could rise?
I'm looking at the San Francisco versus the Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas has got there twice, sort of like Green Bay did, and San Francisco ends up beating them. San Francisco is the class of the NFC. No doubt about it. They got 4 different players at 1,000 yards. They got a great defense. They're physical. They'll out-physical you. They'll out-throw you. They'll outrun you. I mean, this is the strongest team in the NFC. Dallas running game looked a little bit better at the end of the game, but it's still a big question mark. Dak is throwing the ball great. I mean, he should be in the MVP conversation if you look at the stats. But they're going to have to go on the road. And if they got to go on the road to play San Fran or even Philly or even Detroit on the road, that's where they run into problems. They're not a away game. You got to be able to play away, especially in Dallas's position, to have a shot to get to the Super Bowl.
Definitely that, and that's something that Dallas has struggled with the entire season. I think they are like 3-4 on the road. That was the last time I looked. It was like a week ago. So almost at 500 on the road, but just not enough. And when it's playoff time, we know that teams that are not even in the playoffs at all, it's their mission just to make sure this team, doesn't go where they're supposed to go. For instance, I'm a Panthers fan, as you mentioned earlier. And even though our season has long since been gone and over with, like we were eliminated a long time ago for all intents and purposes, we have Saints fans now that are rooting for us because they want us to beat Tampa Bay so that they can claim the South, which everyone is barely above 500 in this entire division. But here we are.
I would like to be Atlanta right now, right? I mean, you think you got the quarterback, you got a number one running back, you got a good tight end, a good defense, and you just can't put it together. I mean, I know they got to go get another quarterback. New Orleans, they're getting older on defense. They got a good running back there. Carr's okay. He's a decent quarterback. And you got Tampa Bay sitting there. And so what do you do as those teams in the South? They're in bad positions. They're like stuck in the mud, Sonja, because they can't get low enough to get a good draft. They have to throw everything out and start over again. Or do you just try to run it back and end up 7-9 or 9 and whatever, 8-8 again? I mean, what do you do in that kind of position?
I mean, the Falcons, I live here in Atlanta, and so I pay attention to the entire division. The Falcons have been in kind of like a non-rebuild mode for the longest, but they have a lot of offensive issues that are not just with the quarterback. But that's one of them. It's just the quarterback. They have a poor coverage techniques. Their receivers are having issues with different things. Even their defense, which has been explosive at times, has been the one that basically saved them a lot of the losses that they were facing because they've had, turnovers and everything. The defense has forced turnovers with other teams, and that's been the saving grace for the Falcons getting a win. But this was supposed to be like a favorable stretch of the season for the Falcons, especially when you look at the rest of the division. But instead, they lost to Carolina, and then they just lost again to Chicago. And now it's just like Falcon fans and everyone is basically thinking that the organization overall is in disarray. I'm part of some NFC South Facebook groups that I just most of the time read the comments where fans are not only calling for like a new quarterback, but they're sometimes asking for a new coach. It's just going to be a lot with, different people trying to figure out what that problem actually is. And it's a long list. And the biggest priority to them is just correction to help salvage the disoriented offense that they have. Like the offense is just disoriented.
Yeah. Well, good luck on that. I just know a lot of teams get stuck in that, 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, and it's hard to get out of that because you're good enough to maybe make the playoffs as a wild card, maybe win the division in certain cases, but you're not good enough to advance in the playoffs. A lot of teams get stuck in that mud there, I call it.
It definitely gets stuck in there, and unfortunately, I have to talk about sticking in the mud right here and plugging about my Panthers. I know you Northeasterners don't even really look that much in the South, but I have to speak of something that we are absolutely disgusted as Panthers fans. For those of you who do not know, not only did we lose to Jacksonville, and we're just playing because people are on the schedule. So when we were playing and we were undefeated, I was telling everybody, "Oh yeah, we're just playing you because you're on my schedule. You're on our schedule. We're just gonna win, And then we lost that one game, but that's how we see it. But right now, we're just playing the schedule because we're just finishing the season out. I wish we could just forfeit the entire season. But in addition to everything else, the owner, David Tepper, threw a drink. There's a video. Threw a drink on a Jaguars fan, and the general manager was right there beside him. And the NFL is like, we're aware. That was pretty much it. They're not looking into it or anything. So Panthers fans, other NFL fans are outraged. Like, hey, that could never be a fan throwing a drink on an owner. That could never be a player throwing a drink on a fan, or a fan throwing it on a player. How is it that he is, able to get away with this? And it's clear that he did it. It's not like this is a shop or anything. And Panthers fans are literally saying, like, I'm a PSL owner. I don't want to even buy the tickets if we have an owner that shows that type of disregard with 3 minutes left in the game. You're upset because Bryce threw a pick, but you throw a drink, not like out of frustration. You threw it towards the fans. I mean, I've never seen anything like that, Matt.
Me either. And he quickly ran out the back to put an ad in that too, because I don't know if he was worried, but the fan would react to that. But listen, you have an owner there that has some kind of temperamental problems. I think the NFL will do something. Maybe when the season's over, maybe they fine the Panthers. Maybe they make a statement against them. Maybe they say if he continues this, they'll force him to sell a team, which they can do. I know right now that he doesn't belong as an owner of a football team. He has no idea what football is. He doesn't have people around him that will challenge him because they're scared to get fired or get let go of, as what happened with the coach and the GM before and the coach before that. So, I mean, he's kind of like a Hitler over there and ruling over in Carolina there. But, it will come around and bite him in one way or another. Either he'll just sell the team, or he might get forced out, or he very least is going to get fined. I think, Sonja, you watch. But for the Panthers, for the players, that's who I feel sorry for the fans, but I feel sorry for the players most of all, because they're there, they're trying to make a living, they're trying to keep a job, they're trying to feed their families, and they don't know whether they're going to have a job or not. They're playing for an organization that's disrespected around the league. DJ Moore's probably laughing like crazy right now in Chicago.
He was quoted.
So, I mean, listen, for the Panthers, if the owner stays there, he's got to get a general manager or director of player personnel that's a football guy. He's got to let him decide who the head coach is and the coaching staff is. Then he lets them draft the players, not him. Can he do that? I don't know. I mean, Jerry Jones had to give up his reign too. He was the GM / whatever there too. Yeah. And he said, well, maybe I don't know everything. So he let other people are now helping him draft, or at least he's listening to them. This is something that he's got to learn also. But Jerry Jones played football. I don't know if this guy did. So I don't know, Sonja. It's confusing.
Right. He not only did that, he's just a billionaire with big pockets, came in and bought out some sports organizations in Charlotte, bought the hockey team as well, or the soccer team, and has gone through just as many coaches there as he has with the Panthers, like 3 within 4 years, and just like off with your head type stuff. And so you described it best. Everyone that has deep pockets is not meant to make those type of decisions and have those type of ownership. He just, in my opinion, just has a lot of money, didn't have enough to do with it, and felt like he'd get involved with sports when the team was originally sold from Jerry Richardson. We were hoping, like Michael Jordan had expressed interest in it. We were, hoping someone with Carolina roots, with Jordan being from Wilmington, would have invested in it. Tepper's from Illinois, and no Carolina ties whatsoever, and no sports background, honestly. And so we as Panthers fans I can't even tell you how I personally feel and how a lot of other fans feel. Like, not only are we losing, but we have a toddler in Tepper, so to speak, TT.
And that's a great name for him. That's a great name for him, Templar. That's a great name. It describes him almost.
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so funny because when the video came out, I was like, nah, this is not true. Somebody is playing.
Right.
And then ESPN posted it. I was like, okay, no, it's real. ESPN is not gonna be memeing anything like National Enquirer or anything. This really happened.
I kind of blame the NFL too, the owners and the commissioner here. They got to better vet the owners before they let them buy the teams, right? I mean, you can't just, okay, you got a lot of money, you can buy the team, come on in. It hurts the NFL when you have people like this, or the ex-Washington Redskin owner at the time, right? So that hurt the NFL. This is hurting the NFL. They've got to think a little bit more, especially if they want to, they want to add more teams and spread out more. You've got to start thinking about not just the money. The money's there. You're making $17 million, $1 billion a year, whatever it is right now. The money's there. You got to get people that are interested in promoting the NFL, their community, that know football. That's who you need as ownership there. You don't need a guy that has $1 billion in the bank account. That you don't need that to be in football.
Yeah, Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Except the bad version, because
Right.
Daddy Warbucks was supposedly good to Annie, at least.
Right.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, we'll just see how all the NFL plays out with these games coming up on this weekend, a very important weekend for a lot of teams that will solidify their playoffs for real or not, coming up, even though there were some that were eliminated.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. It should be an interesting week.
Definitely interesting. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit and get into a little college football. That Michigan-Alabama game.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, it was just not the best, even though it went in overtime. A lot of people had Michigan as the favorite,
Sonja, you're the first one, and I've had arguments with a lot of people about this. You're the first one that said what I just said. That was the sloppiest game I've seen in a long time in the NCAA playoffs. That game, I mean, it went to overtime, but so do 3-0 games. I mean,
exactly.
That how in the world? And it's I don't want to sound mean to this center, because he's a young man, and things happen. But as a coach, of a legendary coach, how do you let a center who has had problems all year snapping the ball in a shotgun go up against a Michigan State aggressive, fast team and continually snap the ball in the shotgun? I mean, you do it once, he messes up. The ball goes by the quarterback. That's it. We're done. You go under center, or I find somebody else that can do that. You've had all year to get ready for this. You said you brought Alabama back to playing in the playoffs. Here you are, and it blows my mind that you, as a head coach, as a legendary head coach, would not have that quarterback under center if you want to keep that kid as a center because he blocks good. I don't know. But that's what you do. You don't put him in the shotgun and have him trying to field every ball like he's fielding grounders like a shortstop. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, I don't know what he's thinking. And to continually do it, even at the end, the last play of the game, he does it again. Yes. What are you doing?
The play calling was horrible. And Michigan actually was trailing in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Came back and forced overtime. And I knew then, I was like, it's over. You allow them to force an overtime, you're done. And they stuffed Alabama on a 4th and goal to win 27-20.
Listen,
unbelievable.
You're and you got a chance still have a chance as Alabama. I coached for a long time, Sonja, and I coached. I had a shotgun and ran shotgun like 20% of the time in high school. I had a 14-year-old kid. This is back in the 90s that could snap. He made one mistake the whole year snapping the ball back. Wow. So they come back and they say, "Oh, he's a young kid. He's a young man." And if you look, maybe he has a mental block. Maybe he just can't do it. And I've seen it in sports where they have a mental block. They can't throw the ball the first, or they can't make that foul shot. Shaq can't make the foul shot. It's not that he can't do it, and it's something in his mind stops him. And maybe that's what the problem was. But you're the coach, and that's the problem, and you're still going to allow this to happen. I didn't get it. And I'll tell you, Sonja, really, I'm no fan of either team. I'm not a big fan of Harbaugh. I kind of respect Saban a little bit, but with that, I don't know what the heck he was thinking. What is he drinking? I don't know. I have no idea.
And Georgia fans was looking. You had the running back Blake Corum had the 17-yard touchdown on the second play of overtime, and that right there sealed the game, in my opinion. Alabama got all the way up to the 3-yard line, and then Jalen Milroe was stopped, and that was the game.
Yeah.
And it's JJ McCartney, with Roman Wilson had the 4-yard touchdown, and with that 1 minute and 34 seconds that were remaining, and that's what got them up to where they were to go overtime. And now Michigan's going to be playing Washington. Like we're not even really, Washington over Texas. That's crazy. Everyone had the Longhorns is doing it. Just one of those things you can't call it.
No, I mean, you think about that quarterback there, and I'm saying he's really good at throwing the long ball, and he is. But he showed me a lot more than he showed me leadership that game. That's important for a quarterback. My favorite college quarterback coming out is Bo Nix. That's my favorite. But this
he's great.
This kid showed me a lot. I think his name is Penix or something like that.
Yes. Michael Penix.
He threw for almost 500 yards, Sonja. And I look at it's a high flying, he's a lefty, which there's not many of those quarterbacks around, going up against a very physical Michigan team. Michigan's got to be favored, I would think. But you never know. I would love to see Washington beat Michigan just so Harbaugh, with all the stuff he's done all year, everything he's done, and he knows he's done it. We all know he's done it. Everything he's done this year, and I don't want to hear him crying about people trying to kick him out because they don't like him. They don't like him for a reason. But I would love for him not to win this championship, Sonja. I would.
His parents were there with him. His parents were there fighting back tears afterwards, taking pictures like how proud they were. And it's so weird because, people may have slept on Washington for a little bit, but they are 14-0, and they were number 2 ranked. And it was, a very dramatic comeback to them as well, because Texas was ranked number 3. They were 12-2. And it's the first time in program history that Washington has survived enough to go ahead and advance to the college football playoff. So congratulations to Washington. And like you said, Penix Jr., he had one of the finest performances in college football history. He had 430 yards and 2 touchdowns. And because of that, and he outdueled Texas's Quinn Ewers. And this is going to cement his name in the history books for the college football playoffs for quite some time. What do you see that game looking like coming up next week, those two big teams?
Aggressive, physical running game versus the high-flying Washington Huskies. Like I said, I'm going with Washington. Michigan will probably win it just because they've played in these big games, even though they've lost before. I think physicality normally wins out of, between that and I don't know, a graceful team, I guess you will want to call it. But listen, I'm rooting for Washington all the way. We'll see what happens. But listen, defense and running wins games. It always will. It wins championships. And right now, I think Michigan's better at it than they are.
It definitely will. Now, just a little fact about Penix's performance, not trying to do too many P's, but the 430 yards that he passed ranks as the 4th best performance in college football history, trailing only to Alabama's Mac Jones, who is now in the NFL in 2020, and a pair of Joe Burrow performances, another NFL quarterback, for LSU in 2019. Now, both Jones and Burrow went on to win the national title. So that's a fun fact with Penix being the quarterback for Washington. He may be able to pull it off.
Hey, listen, I hope he does. I hope he does. I really do.
Their running back did get injured. Dylan Johnson, he did aggravate he had a foot injury, but he did continue to play his snaps. He did get 49 yards on 21 carries. They weren't that much because of his foot injury, but it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like come playtime next week.
Who you got? Who you picking?
I'm going to pick Washington for the upset because everybody's been pulling for Michael Penix Jr. for quite a while. And I just think sometimes Michigan can be overrated. I know a lot of people probably hate Harbaugh because of the whole Michigan scandal and everything else that comes along with them. But, Washington is going to be the first Pac-12 team to win a college football playoff game since 2014. when it was Oregon. So for no other reason, they're going to have a lot of people that don't really care for Michigan that will root for Washington.
Yes, I'll be one of them.
Yeah. So let's delve over. I guess that's going to be definitely something interesting. Let's delve over just a little bit. We're going to switch gears over to the NBA. We actually have time for that.
All right.
I'm excited about that. The Big East, the Big West, and everything. Boston is looking like they are really trying to be bigger. You know, Jason Tatum standing out there. What are your thoughts on the Big East? And now as January is here and teams are starting to kind of look, you know, have a little bit more strenuous schedule now that the new year is here.
Well, the Celtics have been, you know, rated as probably the best team in the last couple of years in the East. Tatum, of course, is a really one of the best players in the league. I think is it Jaylen Brown, the other one that's the other guard for them. I think it's something like that, Jaylen Brown or what. He's come up short. Yeah,
yes,
he's come up short in a lot of big games, and you know does you know Porzingis there really help them? Are they better than they were last year? I don't know. I guess they're bigger underneath. You know, I mean, he may grab more rebounds than they had before. He's a pretty good 3-point shooter, but he's up and down. I mean, the Celtics were my pick coming out last year. They're my pick going to the championship this year. But you got a lot of trades happening. You got the trade deadline coming up. The Knicks made a trade already. I think there's going to be a lot more. They may trade again. I think there's going to be a lot of trading going on. So we'll see. Right now, I'd have to give the edge to Boston in the East for sure.
Boston in the East is definitely one that a lot of people are talking about. And like I said, Jason Tatum is standing out. Now I'm going to catapult over to the West a little bit. LeBron James, he's getting a little older. People have said that they may be, you know, getting him some weapons out there, or is it time for him to go? What do you think? Because the Lakers are definitely not looking like they're promising this year.
Come on, they won the interconference championship. I mean, what do you want? They're done. They don't have to do anything else for the year, right? So anyway, yeah, LeBron. Listen, LeBron's amazing. That he can still do what he does at 39 years old. He's been trying to give the reins to Antonio Davis for the last couple of years, and Davis doesn't want him. I guess he has a great game. He looks like the best player in basketball. Then he takes a night off, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I think it'll be the same thing as happened last year. They're going to struggle in the playoffs. So they might get in as maybe a wild card team. They just don't have the chemistry there right now. And LeBron can't be playing, 56 minutes every game still. He does that once in a while, but he can't do that anymore. He's waiting for his kid to come out of college. He might stick around another couple of years. I don't know. But hey, I give credit to LeBron James. Antonio Davis are going to have to figure that out. And the rest of the chemistry with the team. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they hit the championship for sure, Sonja.
And speaking of like non-championships, like the Pistons, they were one game short of having a tied most losing season of all sports.
Yes.
28 games. They were one game short of tying that record with the Chicago Cardinals from the 40s. Were the last team to lose 28 games straight.
Yes, and they got a brand new coach that's making $75 million a year, or over his contract. I don't know what to say to that. I don't really follow Detroit except for the losing streak. I know there was a couple games they were in. I think one went to overtime. That's you start losing the same as winning, right? You learn how to win. And you start losing, it's hard. It's like catchy. It's like a virus, So,
right.
So I think maybe they do better. They should get a good draft choice. I don't know, Sonja. I don't know, man. That's how it goes. It's like, okay, sometimes it's just just wait for the draft.
Just wait for the draft.
Yes.
But yeah, I wondered about that because you have the power rankings that come out like they do in all the other sports, and Oklahoma City Thunder. The Celtics are playing them, and the Celtics have won 11 of their last 12 games.
Yes.
And the Thunder have won 7 of their last 8.
Right.
And with the new year, everybody's rested and healthy and just starting off really fresh. So the power rankings are starting to come in with all of those teams. And so it's going to be interesting to look at who's moving around and, the strength of their schedule. Right now, they're saying that the toughest schedules belong to San Antonio, Golden State, and New York. And the easiest belong to Phoenix, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia.
Yes. Yes. And Milwaukee doesn't need an easy schedule, right? They got a pretty good team there. Dillard going there this year. He's got him a shooter outside. And of course, Giannis is an animal. So they're going to be up there. They'll be knocking on the door. Love the Sixers again this year. They're going to be in the Final Four. Whether they get knocked out again like they did last year or not, I don't know. Maxi's really has become a very good player, helping out, of course, one of the premier players in the league, the big center there. I think Philly still doesn't have a bench yet. And that's what's hurt them the last 2 years. They have the starting 5, but they can't get a good bench behind them when these guys get tired. When Embiid gets tired, he needs a day off or a couple of days off, or Maxi's going to need a couple of days off. They really don't have the talented bench to do that. I don't know why they haven't done that in the past few years. Like Miami, Atlanta's a scrappy team. I like what the Knicks did. I like what the Knicks did in that trade. They're saying they may move Randall. I hope they don't because he's having a heck of a year this year, and they may go after Zion Williams, who is hurt every year and doesn't play enough games. I really don't know what's going to happen. I think they stay on the course they are right now. This may be their best 5 in a long time, and maybe they get a couple more pieces, but I don't think they get rid of Randall. Of course, you don't get rid of Brunson. I'm glad they got rid of Barrett. Barrett was so up and down. Quickly coming off the bench, $30 million a year is way too much. So I think they made a good move there.
And I don't think anybody, I'm sorry, Zion has been hurt almost his entire professional career.
Yeah.
Ever since he had the shoe blowout, it's just been like, oh my goodness. Like, at first I thought it was weight related. They said he lost some weight, and then it just seems to be something with him. His best performance days to me were when he was with Duke. Some people, shine as athletes in college, and then they get to the professional level, and they're just not the same. Because if you think about it, everyone on the professional level is good. So you're competing for screen time. It's the same with every sport that we look at. We see these star athletes, and they get into the professional level and get swallowed up, so to speak.
Yeah, and Zion's got talent. There's no doubt about it. I mean, a guy can take over a game in short spurts, but that doesn't help you win games. I mean, the Pelicans, for a while last year when he was healthy, they were great. And then he gets hurt and they fall off. And that seems, like you say, happens every year. So I hope the Knicks don't entertain that thought. I hope they stick with what they're doing right now. And it just made them a little bit better. But still, Celtics, Milwaukee, Philly, Atlanta with Young, and of course, the Heat. They're all dangerous teams. They really are. I know you wanted to talk about the Golden Warriors a little bit.
Yeah, Golden State Warriors. And the Draymond drama. Drama.
I mean, he's playing, right? I think I've seen him on the court. I think he's playing. Is he playing yet?
I think he's back from his suspension, but he did enroll in some type of therapy that was mandated because of his anger issues. But to me, I just think that he's a cancer to that team. I know his performance on the court was well for quite a while, but sometimes I feel like people's personalities can take over their professionalism, and when that happens, it's time to cut ties. The morale suffered from that team, like that. They was mentioned about Steph. He even attacked Jordan Poole, his own teammate, last season. It's something every season. I don't know if it's for clicks and likes or what, but it's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, what a terrible signing that was, right? What is it, $6 million a year for the next 6 years or something ridiculous?
Yes.
That was a terrible signing. The Warriors are just getting old. I mean, Steph is still good, but he's getting up there. Thompson is still has days where he goes off, but he's getting up there. He wasn't the defender he used to be. They've gotten old and they don't have size, and that's not a good combination when you're playing up against the younger teams, the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies and all these young upcoming teams over there in the West. That's the future. That may be the present this year, Sonja. You might see the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies out there battling a championship this year.
Yeah, and it's like, they used to call them the Splash Brothers, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry, and now they're more like a puddle. There's no splash.
Yeah, the puddle people. Yes, that's what they
are. The puddle people. And and you're right about who we may see, because in the power ranking, Phoenix moved up 9 positions, Indiana's up 7, and New Orleans has gone up 4, where teams like Dallas have gone down 6 in their power rankings. Golden State has gone down just 3, considering, I guess, because they've fallen so much. And Houston as well has gone down 3. The team to watch, you mentioned it earlier, was the Knicks. They won their first game with their OG Anunoby. I cannot pronounce his name. Sorry about that. And they beat one of the best teams in the league on Monday afternoon. And they're going to have some tests out there when they get ready to play the Bulls, who are coming up in their ranks, and the third place Sixers on Friday. So they have 2 more games this week, every other day, that they're going to have to try to, pull up on and see what the Knicks look like. They may be the sneaky team that we didn't realize was coming from behind. I know. Are you a Knicks fan since you're a New Yorker?
Of course. I'm, my dad's from New York. I didn't have a choice growing up, but the thing with the Knicks was they were always good enough to beat a good team one game, but they're not good enough to win series against these great teams. With bringing on they got 3 new players, Anunoby, I can't remember. I got a brain freeze on the other 2, but they're all 3 of them are good either in backup roles coming off the bench. Of course, Anunoby is going to be a starter in place of Barrett. And with with Randall having was one of his best years of his career this year, as long as they stay healthy and they have that bench, maybe they finally can compete with these big teams. I don't know. For a series, you got to be able to win the series. You got to win 4 games. You can't just win 1. And that's what the problem they've been having the last couple of years. A lot of people have problems with the way Thibodeau coaches. He's a defensive-minded coach. Some of the players don't want to play with him, from what I've read. But the new kid that came there, Anunoby, says it's a great atmosphere, great place to play, great fans. He's all excited about being in New York, but they're going to have to sign him after this year. So that's going to be a big thing for the Knicks to do next. And
not to mention the loss of Emmanuel Quickly.
Yes.
That's going to definitely affect the Knicks bench. At least, coming up, they had a new starting lineup where you're talking about the new people that were coming in that was plus minus 19 in less than 19 minutes, which was pretty good. But the Knicks were outscored 13 later on in their last matchup. So, they survived a big stretch run with Julius Randle and got one of their best wins of the season, and remain the only team actually that hasn't lost a game that it led in the third quarter. So that's definitely saying something.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they're a defensive team. They can shut down high-scoring teams. Anunoby is a great defender at small forward. He averages about 15 points and 6 rebounds a game, which is pretty good for a small forward. But he's not the type of guy that takes over the game. He's a piece that will help you as a great defender, and that's what they needed. They didn't need another 3-point shooter. They really didn't need another a point guard. You had Quickly and Brunson playing the same position, and that's what hurt Quickly. I wish Quickly all the best of luck. Barrett too. I hope they have good season with Toronto. But you can't pay Brunson. I don't know what he would make, about $30-something million a year, and pay his backup almost $30 million a year.
Right.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. They have money for days.
Yeah, it's true.
What do you see? One little final question here as we get ready to wrap up. It's been so great chatting with you tonight, Mac. What do you see? I know you said that Knicks do look promising, but with Boston being where they are, do you think the Knicks have what it takes to kind of supersede that, or you think Boston's going to probably run away with it?
I still think Boston's the class of the East. I think the Knicks have some work to do to catch up to them, to the Bucks. The Sixers, I think, we're pretty even with in the rest of the teams. But I think the Bucks with Giannis and the Boston Celtics just play great team-based basketball. And when you got a team that plays great team basketball and has stars on it, it's hard to beat them. So those two teams, I think the Knicks might be able to squeeze into third this year, depending on what else they do. They were in fourth last year, so that'll be a step up. And that's just because of the 76ers bench. So it'll be really interesting, Sonja. The Atlanta Hawks, you got to be happy with what they're doing this year too. So I mean, they're playing some good ball too. They play good ball for the last few years.
Yeah, definitely still up for grabs, and a lot of basketball left to be played. We're still early. We're about halfway through a quarter, I should say, of the season. So we still have a lot of basketball left to be played. And Mac, it's just been really great chatting with you tonight. I really appreciate you coming on and joining me this first integral episode of 2024 of NESSP at Night with Sonja Pearson. And I'll be back tomorrow night with you guys at 6 p.m.
Yes, on Northeast Professional Sports. Up after us, we got Robert Butler with Sports Scope. I think we got I'm almost positive we have Sneaky G, man, a big Giant fan. He's crazy about the Giants. I'm more realistic than he is. He loves the Giants, and he's on later on tonight. Big lineup tomorrow. Roku channel just keeps growing and growing with all these great followers. Thank you, all of you, for making last year great and to a better 2024, especially when we got hosts like this on our show now, doing shows for us. I think we're going to grow even more. So there you go.
Thanks, Mac, and the pleasure's all mine. And I will definitely be back tomorrow night as well with all things football from a lady's perspective after the other show with them. So with that, we're going to bid you all a good night, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Please share, because sharing is caring, and have a great night, everybody.
Take care, folks.